It's well known many large publishers in the scholarly field and in the trade field employ a blockbuster strategy. And the basic strategy is very simple. They want to focus their developmental and marketing resources on that small cluster of likely hits, however you define the word hit, in the scientific, technical, medical, legal, tax, regulatory, humanities, social science sectors that can support other books. And the hit provides the revenue stream to cover what are generally losses. And in the trade book business, new adult hardcover fiction books, out of every 10 books published, 7 lose money, 2 break even, 1's a hit. Not good ads. But recent developments in technology have changed this. Scholarly publishers today can easily and basically cheaply, that should be in quotes, or inexpensively, is to replicate books. Online retailers have infinite shelf space. Consumers, you can easily search through many, many different options and better match your choice to preferences. You probably either read or know about Anderson's book, The Long Tail Theory, and the subtitle is Why the Future of Business is Selling Less of More. So I thought I'd talk briefly about some of his ideas. 1, online channels cause merchandise assortments to grow because physical and cost constraints on selection disappear. In essence, the tail of the sale distribution is getting longer. His second maxim, online channels change the shape of the demand curve because people value, he believes, niche products, and obviously many titles in scholarly and professional are indeed niche products, more than those geared toward the masses in the head, which defies what the trade book people will tell you. He would argue that the tail of the sales distribution is getting fatter. He said, quote, the potential aggregate size of the many small markets and goods that don't individually sell well enough for traditional retail and broadcast distribution may rival that of the existing large market in goods that do cross the economic bar. Is the tail getting longer? I think statistically, yes. Is the tail getting fatter? I think statistically, maybe not. In fact, we know there's an increasingly larger number of titles that never sell many, if any. And the long tail is long, but probably incredibly flat. So the question is the future of scholarly publishing to sell less of more? I hope the future is to sell more of more. So we'll take a look at some statistical data. In the middle of it, I'll have some information about direct marketing and direct-to-consumer, and I broke that up for different reasons because too many stats would be somewhat difficult. But what we want to do is look at statistical data to see if there are trends. We know there are major university presses. This is merely a small snapshot. It's what fit on the screen. Here are some of the major commercial publishers again. This is what fit on the screen. Obviously, these are well-known, well-established companies. Here's the revenue stream, 2010, 2009, Pearson PLC. That's 8.095 billion if you're counting, and we do. You can see what Reed Elsevier did, Thomson Reuters, etc. And we were able to get some data on Oxford University Press of 942 million in essence. So that shows you what the revenue streams were. This is a big business. University Press new title output. This is from Yankee Book Peddler. 2000-2001 academic year to the 2010-2011. We'll get the 2011-2012 data probably in about a month. You can see in 2001, University Presses published 10,160. Average suggested retail price, $46.21. By 2009-2010, it was up to 12,104 titles. That's 109,000 plus in 11 years. That's 27 every day. That's 1 per hour. And the suggested retail price hit $61.04. Accurate data from Yankee Book Peddler. What happened on the commercial scholarly side? You think 109,000 is a lot? They put out 524,000 titles. They were putting out 131 every hour, or every day. 5.44 books. Between the time this session began and the time it ends, commercial scholarly publishers will put out on the table 27 plus new titles. You can actually see that in 2000, 2001, 41,000 and change, average price $60.99. By 2010-11, 51,000 and change, $85. Put the two together, and that's what came out of the pipeline, according to Yankee Book Peddler, which is a very, very good data set, by the way. 643,461 titles in 11 years. That's 160 books a day. That's 6.6 per hour. We looked, again, using Yankee Book Peddler data, we looked at just two, and we actually looked at 24 categories, but I just will give you two. We did not believe there was any qualitative difference between a philosophy book published by a university press or one published by a commercial scholarly publisher. You can actually see that the suggested retail price in 2009, 10, and 11 on the university press side for a standard philosophy book was significantly lower than what the commercial scholarly publishers were able to charge. If you look at economics books, the difference is also pretty stark. We don't see any qualitative difference between any of these books. In fact, we can't even evaluate any qualitative differences. This is what we do know. Somebody left money on the table. Those are print. We did a survey of 5,000 ebooks to determine average and median prices for philosophy. The average was $7.14 online. I won't say it's from Amazon, but it's on some well-known online service. Medicine was that's $9.65. Reference was $4.72. Professional and technical, $8.26. The movement toward digital is not going to stop because people don't like digital books. According to CNN Money, next month, the data it's actually out now, but it's a June date. 67% of U.S. consumers have a smartphone, not shocking. 14% have a DVR, not shocking. 8% have an MP, that's an MP3 player, not shocking. 11% have a tablet or a reader. 28% of them are over the age of 50. That is a significant stat. They also estimate that in 2014, 208 million tablets are going to be sold. 50% will be iPads. There are only 309 million people in the United States. That's a significant stat. When you start to see a lot of these statistical data sets, and you then start to sift through it, big data concept aside, you start to get a feel for what's going on. 15.4 million iPads were sold in the fourth quarter of 11. A little more than 11.4 were sold in the first quarter of 12. Amazon has a 60% market share. Books, Barnes & Noble Nook has a 27. The rest have 13. I hope you paid a lot of attention to the announcement of the creation of a company called Nuco. Nuco is a joint operating undertaking between Microsoft and Barnes & Noble. Microsoft put $605 million into a company called Nuco. They're bringing technology. They're bringing patents. What Barnes & Noble gets is a lot of cash. They get to stay in business. But they also get technical expertise for that tablet. And watch what happens in the next 6 months. You're going to see Nuco. They may change the name. It's kind of a dopey name. But you may see Nuco become not just a threat to Amazon, but a very, very serious threat to a number of people in this ebook business. Nuco. What's happening with unit sales? These were stats that appeared in PW as of May 12th. The latest stats are in the latest edition. I didn't have time to update it. You can actually see declines. This is print units, folks. Declines in adult nonfiction, adult fiction, juvenile YA, which is the best category going, only down 1%. Hardcover down 5%. Trade paper Adult trade paper, mass market paper disappears in digital, down 15, mass market down 27. Hold your breath. Those numbers are going to fall right through the floor. I thought I'd show you a sample P&L. This is for a scholarly book. In fact, I saw people at the Jersey Shore over the weekend reading this book called Intellectual Property Law, Copyrights, Patents, and Trademarks. This is not a textbook. This will be published in May of 2012. I'm not the author. It'll be revised every 3 years. Put aside the title. The numbers you're going to see are accurate. I just changed the title so you wouldn't figure out it was something maybe we worked on. It's a 256-book page, black and white, no photographs, 15 illustrations, 51 statistical tables. All these numbers are rounded off. Print run 2,000. That's a pretty aggressive run. They'll give away 100 copies. Potential sale 1,900. Returns 309, 18.9%. The actual annual return rate in 2011 was 19. This is right on the mark. And of course, never shipped. Those copies in the warehouse that collect dust. So what you'll end up selling out of a print run of 2,000 is 1,319. That's a 69% sell-through rate. That's pretty good, by the way. Suggested retail price, $75. I will put down a 48% discount. I am not implying that's what a publisher would do. Discount rates are public information. You can check the website. You can check the catalog. Pricing is very sensitive these days. I'm assuming a 48% discount, $39 net to the publisher. Printing paper and binding, $10,000. If done in Asia, probably Hong Kong, probably China. Plant, editorial art design, layout, and page makeup, $2,500. Some work done in China or Asia. Marketing, $2,500. Authors advance, $5,000. You don't make a lot of money in this business, do you? And that's an advance against the royalty. The royalty is 10% of net, $39 net, $3.90 per copy. Don't even try to figure out what that author got per hour. Subrights, reprints, nothing. Foreign rights, $2,000. It's usually a 50-50 split between the author and the publisher. Publisher gets $1,000, author gets $1,000. Print run, $2,000. Give away 100 copies. You end up with 1,900. You subtract copies returned. You subtract never shipped. You sell 1,319. Your net sales, that's $39 times 51 times 1319. You get $51,441. Not a lot of money, all things considered. Printing paper and binding, I've already showed you. Plant, earned royalty, $3.90 times 1,319 units. The author was paid $5,000 advance. The author walks away with an extra $144. Author's royalty write-off, $0. Total cost of goods sold, $17,644. You subtract total COGS from net sales, you end up with an initial gross margin of $33,977. Still not a lot of money, but it's going to show a profit. This is what publishers like to see. Other publishing income, so the final gross margin is $34,797. Inventory write-off. This is always controversial. Editors, publishers hate to have write-offs. How you calculate the write-off is subject to some accounting manipulation. I assume 10,000 printing paper and binding, 2,500 plant, 12,500 divided by 2,000, $6.25. Maybe you do it differently at your place. You can. Marketing, overhead 20. Now, overhead is like beauty and truth. It's in the eyes of the beholder. Some people do 20, some do 30, some do 50, some do more than 50. You can do whatever you want for your overhead, whatever is appropriate. I took a very, very conservative number of 20%, and that is conservative. You ended up with a net profit of $18,000. This book made money. Profit as a percent of net sales, 35.73%. The book was also issued in paper. Did 1,275 in paper. That's a significant number. Now, January 19, 2012, Apple announced it would enter into a partnership with Pearson, Odin Mifflin Harcourt, and McGraw-Hill. They will sell a K-12 textbook for $14.99. That same book in print would be $79.97. You can check out the Pearson website for the Algebra 1 book, print, $79.97, $14.99. This is what's going to happen eventually in some parts of the scholarly publishing business. They will approach publishers and they will say, this is a partnership that makes some sense. So I ran the numbers using the same numbers I just showed you, with one exception. I added the hardcover and paperback numbers together. This is a book that will be published annually. It will be an enriched book. It will have audio and video. Now you might say, why audio and video? That's the future. It's going to be published annually. If it's a math book, you just change the numbers. If it's an accounting or finance book, you just change the numbers. I used to teach U.S. history. This is what I noticed. Every January, like clockwork, the South lost the Civil War. So this is what you do. One year you have Franklin Roosevelt with an audio tape announcing the United States was going to war against Japan on December 8th, 1941. The next issue, you have Harry Truman announcing the United States just dropped a bomb on Hiroshima and World War II is now ended in the Pacific. You can change, let's say you're doing a British lit book. Byron, Shelley, Keats, Wordsworth, and Coleridge. You got 10 poems this year, you have 10 different poems next year. This is not hard to do. This is not rocket science. This is creative. Print run 0. This is digital only. You're going to download this from the iBook store onto your iPad. You can go to the Apple Store now. You can download iBooks Author, free. You can drop your book in, free. You want to sell it, it's got to be on the iBook store. That's the deal. You don't want to go to them, you can go to Barnes & Noble, pub it. They've got 11,000 authors and 66,000 titles available as we speak today. Gross sales, $25.94. That's the hardcover and paperback. Why do I think that's going to happen? Is they're going to update this book every year. This is a professional book you must have in order to do your business. Returns, 0. Never shipped, 0. Suggested retail price, $30. It's not going to be $14.99, but it will be an agency. And the deal with an agency is 70% goes to the publisher, 30% goes to the author. That means at a $30, the publisher is going to net 21. Publisher netted 39 in the print, right? This doesn't look like such a good deal. And Apple walks away with $9. They do have transaction costs. Let's be serious about that. Printing paper and binding, nothing. Plant, still $2,500. It does not disappear in digital. Marketing, still $2,500. Authors Advance will be generous. They'll give them $5,000 the first year. In the second year for updates, they won't get anything, but we'll put that down on paper. Royalty, 10%, which is $2.10. Your first thought is, the author was getting $3.90, right? Author lost money. Gross sales, returns, net sales, $54,474. Cost of goods, plant, $2,500. Royalty, $2.10. You're going to sell more units, author walks away with more money. That's for year 1. There's also subsequent years. We'll compare 3 years to 3 years. Royalty write-off, 0. Cost of goods sold, gross margin, $46,527. This is what's going to happen. $46,527. We still have the $1,000 foreign subrights. $47,527. You have corporate charges. Again, I also figured 20%. You can raise that to anything you want. You're going to walk away with $34,132. That's in year 1. Notice the profit as a percent of net sales, 62.66. If the publishing industry could go digital in the next 10 minutes, they would. Year 2, year 3, year 20. The first book I showed you was a 3-year cycle. Compare apples and apples, here's a 3-year cycle. This book is going to generate a lot of cash. The author is going to make more money. The publisher is going to make more money. There are winners and losers. Disintermediation is a term that we have come to believe is a fact of life. And that is the disintermediation of the traditional book retailers or the traditional book publishers. iBooks author, iBookstore. Pubbit, Barnes & Noble. Disintermediation was originally developed by our good friends in finance, and that was to find a better source of profit. In the marketing literature, it's sometimes called direct marketing, sometimes called direct-to-consumer, D2C. There are two kinds of D2C. The author posts a book on iBook Authors, or Pubbit, sells directly to you, bypassing traditional book publishers, or the publisher posts a book on his or her website or some sort of a online service and sells directly to the consumer, bypassing traditional channels of distribution. Disintermediation has been going on for a long time. This is not new. Here's what's happening in your own sector, the journal sector. October 2007, there were 2,872 online journals, free, in quotes. By May 23rd, it was 7,757. Notice the number of pages jumped from 157,000 to 804. We need to look at two questions. First, how big of an impact will disintermediation have on scholarly publishing? And two, will the impact be positive or negative? There's a lot of literature on direct marketing, D2C. It involves interactive. Planners plan campaigns, deciding on certain objectives. I'll do this very quickly. The whole idea is to generate more revenues. It's sometimes called direct order marketing. Different strategies. You can review the published literature. The goal is to create some sort of a relationship, hopefully a continuous relationship between the author or publisher and you, the consumer. You can have target markets. You can have personalized messages. You can be flexible. You can allow for testing. You can create certain objectives. There are the 7 C's. Context, content. Content does not disappear. Content is why you want to read something. It's compelling. Community, customization, communication, connection, and commerce. These are all the things involved in D2C. Let's take just a quick look at some stats. Then we'll take a break. We'll come back and finish up our review of stats. Here's annual bookstore revenue. We have it by month, from January 1992 through December 2011. The 2012 data only goes through February. You can actually see this is annual data from the U.S. Department of Commerce, Bureau of the Census, monthly retail data. You will see the high point was 2007. That's $17.2 billion. By 2011, it dropped to $15.5 billion. What makes that number even more significant is that if you visit a bookstore, and I do almost every week, and I won't tell you it's a Barnes & Noble superstore, I count shelves. The shelf is 4 feet. I want to know what's on the shelf. I want to know how many shelves are in a sector. You go through a Barnes & Noble, you know what I saw recently, 6 months ago? Toys and games. Toys and games in the juvenile YA section. Toys and games in the adult book section. They took shelves and took books off the shelf. They put toys and games on the shelf. You go to a Barnes & Noble, you could go there at 9 in the morning and stay till 1 in the morning. Coffee, tea, croissants. You want sidelines. You want Godiva chocolate. Magazines. These numbers include everything. This is not just books, folks. If you go back a few years, toys and games are not such a big deal. Number of book outlets in the United States. This is from the Library and Book Trade Almanac, 2011. 2012, Dave Bogart does a great job editing that book with his wife, Catherine Barr. I do an article every year in it on book exports and imports. The 2012 book will probably be out in late June, early July. We went from 25,137 bookstores in 2010 to 16,968. By the way, see that 16,968? That includes Borders. When the 2011 numbers come out, that number is going to drop because all those Border stores closed in 2011. Let's take a 25-minute break, and we'll come back, and we've got some more really interesting stats, including what happened on the trade side and what's happening on the scholarly side. We'll come back at 3:30, folks. Thank you.